It's 8:30, I'll call a meeting to order.
Oh, good.
Good morning. Item number 3, invitation for a citizen to schedule time on the commission agenda for an item not listed. Is there any citizen that would like to schedule on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll move on. Approval agenda, is there any additions or corrections? I've declared approved as read. Consent agenda items, approval of minutes, approval of travel and education requests, and approval of human services report. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on, number 6, routine business, approval of claims.
Move approval.
I get a motion and a second. Any questions?
There was the one change that was put in front of you this morning from weed department, was just a change from $389.50 to $365.73 for Dale's alignment.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, signal with an aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Department head reports. Misty, would you like to start?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'll start out. Our weather has not been very friendly to us. We're spraying. We're out there spraying when we can. Sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning we'll come in on a good day when we know the wind is going to come up in the afternoon. We have 6 out of our 18 townships completely sprayed. So we have a few left to do, but we're working on them. And as we get good days, hopefully we'll have quite a few more. About half done with county roads. We've got them sprayed in the state roads. They're 3/4 of the way done. Sprayed, I should say. Otherwise, hoping for the wind to quit blowing and the rain to quit coming. This week's been wonderful to us. On May 26th, we went out and sprayed the cattails on County Road 11. For the culverts on County Road 11 with Habitat. It doesn't look like we got a very good kill, being it was May 26th when we spray it. Things are starting to yellow up. I think we're going to have to go out there and reapply with a little bit stronger, more habitat within our water. That way we can take care of these cattails and hopefully it'll take care of our situation out there. So, but otherwise, I do not have anything else for you guys. Is there any questions for myself?
Just one question, Misty. I had a constituent ask me about mosquito control. Is that your department that handles mosquito control? Good, because I referred them to you. Thank you.
Yes, that is my department. I have not received any inquiries quite yet, but we need to start our larva sighting. I need to visit with Matt on the city and find out what their map is, what they're treating, so we don't double treat. And then we'll go from there. But yes, we are going to be mosquito spraying again this year.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike?
Good morning.
Morning.
Boy, this extra week kind of throws you off, and used to having the meetings every other week. Anyway, With that, I did, next week I will be gone to the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers training, the annual training that keeps me certified to get into the VA system, so I'll be gone that week. I did present, or I did do the talk up at White for Memorial Day, and I don't know if any of you noticed that you have a speech prepared, and then when you start going into it, you kind of look at the crowd and say, this was not the crowd I expected. And so I kind of bailed. I said, okay, I can talk about stuff that'll really bore you, or I can sit down. I chose the sit down part. As far as traffic into our office, we did have 130 phone calls, did make 124 out. We had 57 veterans. Quite a few veterans are stopping in. I think part of it was because of Memorial Day, wanting to find out more about the markers and everything being set and everything. The welfare numbers had been down, but I noticed this week that they're kind of creeping back up again, and we did have 22 people stop in about that. And then I guess later on we'll have a issue before the board that I'll be back up for.
Any questions for Mike?
I just have a quick question. Is your office involved with the markers for the veterans then?
What our office is we work closely with the funeral homes, and not to go into much detail, but once a veteran dies, they ask for a marker. Usually the funeral home will help set that up, and then they come into our office, and we will then complete the paperwork and make sure all the necessary documents are there. The family is responsible for setting the marker. The state of South Dakota does reimburse the family up to $100, and most times it's about $250 to get a marker set, but we take care of that paperwork also and track it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
Good morning.
Morning.
We've got Mr. Hill's report that he sent you. I'll just highlight a couple things in there. He is in gas line pipeline advisory committee meeting. We have a meeting tonight. We've had some correspondence from the city and other concerned citizens out in the county regarding that, our meeting tonight. We're having a special meeting on June 15th at 7 p.m. to have a public hearing on adopting the administrative section of the zoning ordinance. So hopefully that'll go well, and it'll continue on to you guys, and hopefully be adopted shortly. So
Thank you.
that's all I've got.
Chris?
Good morning.
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 First and foremost, on behalf of SDAO, I'd like to thank Larry for coming out and greeting us in our opening sessions, and also Ryan for coming and presenting a realtor's perspective for market evaluations and appraisals. Conference is over. It's been a long week. As far as our office goes, we are back at it. The guys are out continuing on with the rural review, and we're driving hard on that. And now the sticky part, I've been kind of keeping you in the loop that didn't hear anything by the deadline for OHE or Circuit Court. I got a letter last week. Our low-income housing tax credit apartment that appealed to county boards filed directly to the Office of Hearing Examiners on the 19th. And OHE has 10 days to respond to me, to let me know. I assume they got it in postmarked or in the mail on the 21st, and I got notification on the 31st, of course, when I was gone. So with that, I don't know if Terry got my email or not yesterday, but when I came in the office, we are to respond to the Office of Hearing Examiners on June 27th at 10 a.m. in Pierre with that. So I thought I was going to have a downtime, and I've got about 10 days to get about a 90-page narrative appraisal done and evaluation completed on the low-income housing tax credit. So we will be going to OHE, and I'm pretty confident in talking with Revenue that we should prevail. Again, as I mentioned to you guys during the boards, the narrative appraisal they presented at county boards, they neglected to do a cost approach. They neglected to do a market approach. They did an income approach, but it was on the restricted income only, and it's looking at their appraisal again just this morning. He called it a fee simple market valuation. Well, if you're using restricted rents, it's not fee simple and it's not a true market evaluation. Any prospective purchaser of that property would consider their actual rents and their tax credits. So the simple fact that we have 10678 in codified law stating that the Director of Equalization cannot use those tax credits as income is really irrelevant. So my perspective is going to be that when I do my narrative appraisal, here's the cost, which I have land acquisition at $330,000 and actual building permit construction cost of $4.1 million. I have market, which I have sales right next to them. We presented that at county boards. That indicates they're about $4.2 million. I have market income, which comes in at about 4.2. And I also found mortgage documents yesterday in the Register of Deeds. One mortgage document for $683,000, one mortgage document for $4,020,000. So in my appraisal, I'm going to say I've considered all three approaches, and I'm going to neglect the income approach, just as they neglected the cost or the market. And we'll see what the judge interprets from that and go forward. In my heart and mind, I don't know how you can come in here and say it's only worth $1.9 million when everything is correlating to that 4.2 to 4.4 million. So, and also talking with revenue, it's gonna, that 10678 is gonna go up for legislative review, and hopefully we can get that law revoked. We're not the only county in this situation this year. There's another county, I think down in Yankton County, they're also taking one to OHE. And I anticipate if they don't get their answer they want at OHE, we will probably be moving on to circuit court. So in the interest of the county, it's roughly about $28,000 annually in property taxes that they're asking for. So
Chris,
we'll do our best. And
do you have to appear out in Pier to testify then?
yes, myself and the state's attorney. I can't represent the county in a court hearing, so
Okay.
the state's attorney. But the only thing I'll be working with Terry, we'll have to find out with that early of a morning OHE if we want to go out the night before and stay and prep and go over everything, or if we want to get up at 0:30 and make the trek, and we'll hammer those details out. Right now I'm focused on data, and compilation and putting my narrative appraisal together. So, and I think it's been 2006, I think, was the last time we went. That was on the 1921 building, and we actually went to circuit court on that. We had one in 2010 with the Innovation Campus Apartments. We were scheduled to go. We did the workup, and the day before they pulled. So, but I don't think these guys are going to pull.
Leanne?
What was it that you got served? Was it a complaint, a petition? What do you
Nope,
get
just
served?
just a notice that they're appealing the county board decision of no change.
Will you, I would like a copy. I don't know if the rest of the board would, but
Yep,
I would like
I
to
can
have a
scan that
copy.
and send that out.
thank you.
Yeah, it's nothing on it. All it is saying, hey, they've petitioner of Brookings Prairie Apartments versus Brookings County, the respondent, to a hearing to be held on June 27th, 2017, beginning at 10 a.m., and then their legal description, and that I have to supply all of my documents at least 5 days prior to the appealing party. And so
Okay.
I've got about an 8 working day window to get this done. So, and it's a lot. Other than that, conference was great and phenomenal. I wish the board, the banquet, the food was good. Everything kind of went off without a hitch. I had one kind of snafu. My very first opening deal, I'd contacted a Boy Scout troop way early in the year, see if they would do the presentation of the colors. Yep. She was going to check and find out, and never heard anything back. And I left messages and called and never got anything back. So 2 weeks ahead of time, Jean knew somebody, my clerk, and she locked and loaded it and come to do the opening ceremonies and the presentation of the colors. I had 2 Boy Scout troops show up. So that was about the biggest hitch I had of conference. So everything else went smoothly and flawlessly, and I've received many compliments on it. It was very educational. Everybody got a lot out of it. So
Good job.
thank you.
Thank you in advance for your hard work on this appeal. I hope it stops there.
Well, that's what we're here to defend, our values. And if I had any thoughts or reservations that maybe we're wrong, I would recommend stipulation or really look at it with a fine-tooth comb. But in this case, I think when I get done presenting my data, in all reality, I think it should go up. However, limited sales, you know, I've got 5 sales, but it goes back to 2013 is what we're using. It's getting a little old. I'd never have enough in 1 or 2 years to make a good adjustment. So, but you can certainly trend off of since 2013 and see we should go up. We just don't have the ability to get there. It's kind of like our old ag land problems where we didn't have enough sales. They kept going, but we didn't have enough in the confinement of the law to make that leap. And then we end up stuck here, and then they have to completely revamp and change the law to productivity to even attempt to get us resolved. It's kind of the same deal with apartments. They just don't turn over. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I don't have too much today. We've been working on budgets with Stacy and the department, so we have got that pretty much ready for you guys for next week. I think all the books are put together, and so we're moving along good on that. And a couple weeks ago, we met with the city, Kristen and I did, on how the city and school election went. We met with the city and the school, and I think everybody was pretty happy with the way everything went, and we always try to look at things to see how we could do it better, and they've got some ideas for their next election on where they can do the absentees, so they'll be checking into that, and we'll bring that forward if it's something we think we can do as well. And the auditors, the state auditors are done. They were done on Friday, so they moved all their computers and books and everything out, so we are done with that. So that went good. It was much shorter time this year than it was last year. But last year, with it being so late in the year, they ended up doing part of 16 while they were here, So I think that went good, but we don't have any of the results from that. But just from meeting with them, I don't think we had too much changes from what it had been for the 15 year. So, and other than that, busy May with Motor V. It's always busy in May. We have HIs and O's, and apparently we have a bunch of those for Kings County. But it was busy May, so we're on to June. Any questions?
Commissioner Pierce?
Does the auditor do an exit interview with you when they're done?
They will, yes. And they're going to come back and do that, and then they'll come and give an exit interview with, or, you know, after it's been approved by Russ with state audit and everything, they will come and do one with you. But yes, they will. They have not yet, but they will come back for a day or two and kind of go over that.
Was there any more conversation about the budget issue on accrued leave time for people that are retiring?
I met with Jeff on that, the lead in our audit, and he said too he would agree with if we would go through each department and kind of figure out who would be of retirement age and just add that into the budget. So we would just use a portion of it. And he said that he would be fine with that. So, and that is something we can talk about in budget. But I think that that is very comparable to what we could do instead of putting the whole 357,000 in. So they were fine with that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Marty?
Good morning.
Morning.
Start on a lighter note. 2 Saturdays ago, I was standing at my mailbox 5 miles north of town, and I hear the roar of motorcycles coming from the south. And I go, here we go. They're all going to speed by my place. Then I noticed that the leader of the pack was Commissioner Miller, and I felt safe. Anyway, you guys and gals look good on your motorcycles. So, hey, it's been a busy week, the last 3 weeks since we met. Found one interesting thing that was in the Brookings paper on May 19th. And I just referred, I talked about this before. In August of 2017, I brought your attention to the Rapid City Hospital changes policy on mental health care. and it said that the hospital had, that they no longer will be taking in certain types of mentally ill patients and would extend contact the Pennington County Sheriff's Office to take those individuals into custody. And they had created a task force in Pennington County too, with the police chief and the sheriff and other members. And then on May 19th, the Rapid City Hospital came out and said that they plan in their expansion to have 8 safe rooms in their expansion. So I think maybe our hospitals are starting to change their attitudes with mental illness. On June 19th, our mental task force in Brookings is meeting, and Representative Reed will be there, and also Chief Justice Gilbertson will be there to talk about Senate Bill 1183 and so forth. And so I look forward to that. And so maybe our hospitals are changing their attitudes a little bit on the safe rooms. I still want to keep the 2 safe rooms that's planned for the jail expansion, because I still need that space for if the hospital still probably won't take them long term. So if I still have to wait a week or 2 weeks for a bed to open up, I still need to have that area where it's not a cell area, that it's more of a soft room. So we treat them not like as a criminal, but as a person with mental illness. Yeah, I also, this last weekend was tough on my deputies. We had 3 injury accidents. One in the Volga area at Caspian. And that is scheduled for a traffic light there. The state is going to put a traffic light in as well, overdue there. I understand at the time it looked pretty life-threatening for the individual, but I talked to the victim's son-in-law, and he's doing good. He's doing good. Emil's doing good. And then we had another accident out at the Oakwood motorcycle accident. The individual was wearing a helmet, but it flew off when he had impact. I don't know if he had it strapped or whatever, but it flew off at impact. And then on the interstate, there was an injury accident too. So the deputies have been busy. Also, talking about when we were talking about now I lost my train of thought. Oh, COPS grant. Is that they have applied for the COPS grant, got First District involved, and actually it's to Abby's desk. Abby wanted to look at it because something new this year is that the chief legal advisor for the county has to sign off on it too. So that's at Abby's desk. Also in the jail's been busy since the 16th. Also, we've had 4 emergency committals since the 16th, since we met. Actually, there was 5. There was one the day before the 16th, so we had 5. 2 of those emergency committals came out of the jail. One attempted suicide. The other one left a note, and so we took them, had them evaluated, and they were transported to Yankton. Also, I've had 2 assaults in jail. Those are to the state's attorney's office now, just for further charges. Also, we were talking about, and some of this stuff comes out of the variance hearing the other night too, is I talked about that some of my inmates have been in there for 200 days, and there was a comment, something about, well, they should be someplace else. But they're not sentenced. All the ones that I have are pre-sentence. I have, the longest person I've had in jail right now is I have an individual who are 248 days, and it's pre-trial. It's pre-trial. He's for rape and aggravated assault. Otherwise, I have another one in there for 202 days, pre-trial on a rape charge. 195 days, pre-trial, domestic, and also drugs. I have another one in there for 185 days, pre-trial. 124 days, pre-trial. A lot of my inmates are in there, they're not sentenced. They're pre-trial. In other words, they haven't went through all their court stuff. And one of the things that came out of that meeting was the fact is that we should probably move off-site. But somehow I got to explain better how important it is for the jail to stay next to the court system. And I need some help with that. And I wish all the commissioners could have been at that meeting that night so they can hear what some of the stuff was that came out. And I understand then that it's just that I probably didn't do a good job that night explaining myself or explaining the needs of our jail. But it's so important that we stay with the courts. And one of the comments that was made by the architect is how long it's going to last. I can't guarantee our jail is going to last 50 years. If our jail can't last, the courthouse isn't going to last that long either. And that's, we made the courtrooms a few years ago. If we get to that point that we outlive this expansion, I think the court's going to outlive that building too. And we'll have to move everything off. And that could be a museum or whatever. So I think we got to look at some of those things when it comes to that. Also, I'm on the agenda for Traffic and Safety Committee on Thursday to talk about that intersection for site and see. It's just discussion only, and so that they will study that intersection, because there was comments that people walking almost got hit by a car there and those things. There is a site problem there because of the parallel parking there. But the next block has a site problem because on Fifth Avenue, there's parallel parking there also. So there's a couple intersections there, and so I'll work with traffic and safety to make that intersection safer and so forth. So another thing is that the intersection, changing the subject a little bit, we had an accident at 22nd Avenue and 32nd Street. The city police took that accident. I happened to go out to that accident also, and what it was that someone stopped and thought it was a four-way stop and pulled out in front of the other. One of the employee at Bose, one of the supervisors at Bose, called me yesterday morning and says, Marty, what can we do about that intersection? And I said, the county wants to put four-way stop signs up. I says, it's the city that's dragging their heels because it doesn't meet the criteria of site, traffic counts, and all this. So I told him to contact the city. I also talked to the mayor yesterday. He was going to talk to the city manager this morning and see what we can do. I talked to the police chief. The police chief's in agreement with us is that we should have a four-way stop sign there. And with the increase of traffic right now, with the detours, I think that's an important intersection. And Bose told me that his truck drivers avoid accidents there 2 to 3 times a week. So we definitely got an issue there. And somehow I get blamed that we don't have four-way stop signs up there. I just want to make it clear that I think there should be four-way stop signs up there, and this is not on the counties. We're dealing with the city, half with the city. So I just want to make that clear. I'm in agreement. The police chief's in agreement that we should do something there. So anyway, the only positive thing I had was you riding your motorcycle. I'm sorry.
Okay, just brief, could we have a 9 o'clock schedule?
I'll be brief. I'd just like to say, I think there's a possibility that we'll be back in front of that board on a variance request again. And the next time, Marty, I'm asking now that gets on our agenda, it's noticed, so we can have more than 2 commissioners appear at the hearing. And I apologize that I wasn't there.
And that's fine, but I think it was important that you'll all hear what was said. Setbacks, we need to... The thing is, I try to show a hardship, because that was one of the things that you try a hardship to go to the property line, and I tried to do that. But then when we said that we would compromise, then that came back and said that, well, if you can compromise, then you can do other things. And when I compromise, I'm going to take away something. I'm going to take away a little room of some sort. But I want to compromise. I am meeting with some of the neighbors to see what they, what their feelings are. A lot of it's the setback, and I'm hoping that we can work with everyone and come up with a reasonable, solution to there. But somehow I got to explain to the public the importance of staying next to the courthouse. I know we have ITV and all this, but ITV is not always. Everybody has to agree with ITV, and most of the time, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, Judge. Is that the defense attorney wants that person up before, and if it's a felony case, they want him up before the court.
And they have to be up before the court.
Yeah, and
Personally.
Canton right now is struggling they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on transportation. They have 2 vans and I don't know how many employees, and now they're thinking about building a jail, in Canton, because they just can't it's just, the transportation is too much for them. So, anyway.
Okay.
Chairman, just one quick comment from Marty on the stop sign at 22nd and 32nd. That does have a sign on there. It says cross traffic does not stop, but it's too small. And I made a suggestion to the city street department that they increase the size of that sign and maybe even put it on its own post. Because in reality, as many times as I've stopped at that stop sign to turn right, I didn't know there was a sign there. It's too small. It's about 8 by 12, I think, is the size of it. It needs to be bigger so people really notice the sign.
Yeah.
And the other issue is obviously liability. If you put in stop signs on the county side of it and somebody runs the stop sign and gets killed, the lawsuit will be that intersection didn't justify stop signs in the first place, so therefore you're liable because you put them up. So, there's two sides to that we got to be careful with.
Of course there is, but there also we need a new traffic study right now with the increased
That could be.
traffic. I think
The
there's
immediate
some,
concern would be a big sign.
and I understand.
I don't think that'll-
I deal with stop signs all the time in the county because every time someone has a road they're going too fast, they want to put stop signs up. Well, stop signs isn't controlling, shouldn't be put up to control speed. Speed is not a factor there. It's stopping and pulling out. And when you have so many individuals and so many issues there, there's a problem there. We have signs up that says vehicles will be towed. Don't park here. And they park under the sign.
Right.
So,
A sign isn't going to matter.
Okay, we have a scheduled 9
Thank
o'clock.
you.
So, thank you. Scheduled agenda item 9 o'clock. Tim Dwyer with SDSU Foundation, discussion on the county acting as the conduit for the insurance of tax exempt bonds. Would you please come forward and introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, my name is Tim Dwyer. I'm the Vice President of Finance at the South Dakota State University Foundation. And yes, as Larry introduced, we'd like to bring up the topic of working with the county, having the county serve as a conduit for a bank-qualified tax-exempt bond issuance. For those of you that might not be familiar, this is something that the foundation and the county have worked on together in the past. In 2007, it was actually before my time at the foundation, but I came in 2008. The county had helped the foundation out in terms of a $10 million bond issuance. And that was for 5 projects. It was the Young Brothers Seed Technology Lab, the Wintrode Success Center, Daktronics Hall, Davis Dairy Manufacturing, and the DeHaan Equestrian facility. And the foundation is actually wrapping up we did a private placement of that bond, and we're wrapping up making the final payment on that bond here in June. Also in 2010, the foundation and worked with the county and did another tax-exempt bond issuance for the Avera Health and Science Center on campus. And that one as well, that one we were able to wrap up in 7 years because what we're doing with these tax-exempt financing is it's bridge financing. The foundation goes out and raises private gifts for these facilities for the university. And we'll make a commitment to fund the construction, or at least a portion of the construction that the university is looking for to fund with private gifts. But a lot of times those commitments that we receive from donors are over multi-years. And so this financing helps us bridge the gap, and then we make our debt service with the collection of those pledges. In both cases that I talked about, we did a private placement with a bank. That way we're able to negotiate terms where we can have a drawdown period as well as no prepayment penalty. Because there is kind of a uneven repayment or payment schedule that we receive with our pledges, and we essentially, as the pledges come in, we make an immediate payment down on those bonds and get them paid off as soon as we can. So likewise, what we're looking at to ask the county to help us with, again, is be a $10 million bank-qualified bond issuance for 2 projects. One would be the Performing Arts Center, which is a $50 million project, of which the university is providing between higher education facility funds and some other appropriated funds that it has $19 million, but the foundation has raised $31 million in private commitments for that. But again, there'll be a significant amount of those commitments that are in multi-year pledges that we need to finance. The construction is breaking ground right now. If you've been over by campus and seen that, the construction fences are going up. And then in addition to that, the foundation has also committed $13 million to help provide the support needed to build some practice gyms. That would be an expansion to Frost Arena. This would be adjacent to Frost Arena. And that would be 100% financed or funded through private gifts. And but likewise, though, the commitments that we have on those are multi-year as well. And so we do receive quite a bit of the pledge payments during the construction phase, before and during construction phase, but looking to the county to assist us with a bond issuance of $10 million to help us bridge the gap of those pledges. It's my understanding the county has already done a $7.4 million bond issuance for the new jail for 2017. So we would be asking the county to consider this for a 2018 allocation. I don't know if there's any questions. I have with me as well as right over here in the blue suit, yellow tie is Doug Hayek. He's a foundation counsel from Davenport Evans in Sioux Falls. And sitting next to him is Steve Erpenbach, the foundation's president and CEO.
Okay. Any questions or?
Now, it's my understanding we're limited to a certain amount per year that we can do these types of bonds, correct?
In terms of bank qualified, yes, and because the county has already done $7.4 million, if you would exceed the $10 million limit that you have for bank qualified, then the county would lose its bank qualified rate on all of its $7.4 million. And so we understand we wouldn't want that to happen, and neither would you. So we're actually looking ahead to 2018. Now, if a municipality is actually already over the $10 million threshold, then I'm not sure what the limit is, but in terms of the debt capacity of the municipality, but it wouldn't impact the rate that like say the county would have if you're already over $10 million. So if there's nothing on the slate for 2018, that would be great, because we'd be looking at potential that we could get bank qualified rate for that. But if the county already has like more than $10 million on the schedule for 2018, we'd still like to ask the county that then can we do an additional 10. Again, it's the foundation's liability, it's the foundation's debt service. It doesn't impact the county's bond rating or debt service. That's all our responsibility. But if you guys are already over the $10 million threshold, we'd still be asking if we could do an additional 10. We wouldn't get a bank qualified rate, just like you wouldn't be getting a bank qualified rate, but it would still be a tax exempt rate that we could use, which we'd still appreciate being able to do that as opposed to a conventional taxable rate.
Okay. Mr. Pierce?
I wasn't on the commission any other time when this was done. And I'll just be upfront. I don't do this type of work, so I'm not knowledgeable about it. And I'm in favor of what SDSU is requesting, but we have bond counsel on our detention center project. And I think this is a big enough deal that it would not hurt for us to ask opinion from our bond counsel about if there's anything special we need to do, anything we need to be careful about, how that's going to impact us in the future, those kinds of things. And that's what I would suggest, but it's up to the rest of you.
I guess I tend to agree. I don't want to jeopardize any future, of funding which we might need. But is that something, Stacy, that contact our bond counsel?
And I want to say it again, I'm supportive of what you're requesting. I just want to make sure we've got our I's dotted, our T's crossed.
Yep. No, thank you. I can appreciate that. And hopefully, we've come early enough that certainly can allow, time for, we figured that you guys would want to visit with your council as well. And if there's any questions that you have for our council, Doug would be happy to answer those.
Because it is just discussion. I mean, we're not
Right.
making any decisions today. So.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm new, wasn't participating in the last issuance of these, other than the jail bond issue. As we go through I'd like to see this budget for next year. We start next week. I can't identify off the top of my head, bond issues that we might need. I don't think there are any, unless somebody else can tell me any large ones we have coming up. So I don't think it's going to be an issue as far as us needing that bonding authority and taking you out of the qualified as far as that's concerned. But I think we need to make sure we go through our budget process to be sure, in addition to what we're doing with the bond council. So I think we can get those answers pretty quickly, though. We start this next week, so.
Okay, great. Have fun.
Mr. Chair. And we're spending taxpayer money when we get a rate. And so, we want to be mindful of that, and we don't want to be over.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
we want to get the best rate that we possibly can when we're spending taxpayer money.
Yes.
So we need to look very carefully at what our future needs are going to be before we go to the 10 million. So, but we'll look
ma'am.
into this.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
We'll go back to department head reports. Dick?
Good morning. There's quite a bit of stuff coming up later on the agenda, so just briefly to touch on Marty's topic, we've also had numerous calls, so whatever we come up with, I guess we'll follow through and try to be a cooperative party in the decision. Also, I got it worked out with Fred over at Aurora to change the speed limit signs for those guys. And also, one thing I wanted to remind the board on is if the decision of the board is to initiate an increase in the wheel tax, it would be nice if we did that before the big grants were submitted, because it's the status of the tax at the time of that the grant applications are due is what they use to consider the points. So I checked with them. Another thing that kind of saved us this year was in dealing with the 5-year plan, one of the amendments they're making to the guideline book that hasn't come out yet but will, is that unless amended by the Board of Commissioners, your 5-year plan is in effect or acceptable to the state until the new plan is incorporated and sent in with the next year's bridge grants. So as far as the DOT is concerned, the one that's on file with them is acceptable until it's been amended, and then the new one would go into effect. And then also the one we send in with the new grant applications becomes effective after that date. So that gave us a larger window of time this year. Otherwise, we would have been pushing it real tight as far as getting the affidavits and everything in order. The other thing is looking over, we've got everything ready to go, and I think Stacy forwarded the information on the 5-year plan to you, so hopefully that gives you enough time to look over. The bridge grants applications will be completed once we decide if that's what you want to follow through with as far as a strategic move to obtain those. The other items in the plan or the packet that we sent were dealing with just giving you an idea, a better idea of what the total picture looks like for the program and in the future. So other than that, and dwelling on stuff that will probably be duplicated down the road in the agenda, if you have any questions, I can answer them now, or if you would rather wait till it comes up, that's fine too. So, and then next week is our budget hearing, so if there's any questions at that time, we'll certainly clear it up before we assign a dollar amount to those projects.
I guess, is that all you got for your report then?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. I think we'll just move on to regular business till our 9:30 and. Moving on to regular business, first reading, first reading ordinance number 2017-01, an ordinance restricting the time allowed for parking in the county parking lot at lot 101 of the replat of block 10 of the second edition of the city of Brookings, Brookings County, South Dakota, to no more than 48 hours.
I am going to move to table this matter. There is an error as relates to the legal description, and we will get that fixed, and the state's attorney will take care of that, and then we'll bring it back again for another first reading.
Okay. A second.
I'll second that.
A motion and second to table. Those in favor of tabling this?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, moving on. Letter B. Ryan?
Yeah, I'll recuse myself for this one.
Discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 17-23, a resolution authorizing the purchase of real property for the Brookings City and County Government Center, authorizing the expenditure of funds for the purchase of the real property, and authorizing the documents to effectuate the terms and intent of this resolution.
Looking for a motion to approve
Trying to see it here.
for discussion.
Do you want to discuss first, or do you want a motion? What do you think?
Generally,
Let's
you have
do
a
a motion.
that you're discussing, so I'd make a motion to approve.
You got a motion to discuss? Second it, Miller?
Second.
Motion is to approve, to discuss.
Okay, discussion.
Would you like me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. You have before you the resolution. The purchase agreement is attached. Resolution states that we're going to acquire the properties next door. They are listed in the purchase agreement as it's separate parcels. However, it's the purchase agreement involves all three of the parcels, and that doesn't split the value up between any of the three parcels. In addition to the transaction that you see at the end of a referral period and approval of the contingencies by both the county and the city, we will pay $100,000 to the seller, with the closing and the additional $575,000 to be paid on or before June 30th of 2018. That allows the city and the county to both put that purchase in their budget for next year. As other parts of the purchase agreement we can go over if you want to. Essentially, this allows us to acquire the property for this price, plus the conveyance of a couple of parcels of property that were owned by the city and not being used for other purposes at this time. So I'll stand for questions on the purchase agreement if there's any.
Mr. Pierce?
When we look at the whereas, it starts out, whereas the total cost of the real estate shall not exceed $675,000. I believe it was my understanding that the funds for the two lots, the value that's attributed to those, the $75,000 approximate, that amount's being paid by those lots are being brought forward by the city, and so what we would pay is 52% of what's left. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I don't think that that's how that reads, and I wonder if we shouldn't have that read with 52% of the remaining cost paid by the county, because otherwise it looks the way it reads right now, like the city gets credit for that $75,000 from their 48% share?
We don't have a value on those two lots,
So,
so the 75,000 is arbitrary. It's just two parcels that are part of the purchase agreement. They don't have a value established by us. So there is no value added to this purchase agreement other than the seller gets two lots in addition to, but we don't have a established value of 75,000. No.
but, okay, I'm a little confused.
Okay.
The buyer gets 675 plus the two lots?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All
Yes.
right.
Plus the two parcels. So the 52-48 split is on the entire 675,000. To include the 100,000 will be split, and the balance of 575 will be split at closing.
Maybe that's what we need to say, with 52% of 675,000 to be paid by the county of Brookings at closing, and 48% of 675,000 to be paid by the city, to make it clear that the lots are in addition to. I just didn't read that the way you just
Yeah.
explained it to me.
Well, that's, yeah.
And I would move to amend it to read that if that was acceptable, but if, Commissioner Miller, are you?
I don't see a problem with the way it's written, but of course I understood because I was in the meeting, so I don't know. Were you confused when you read that?
I was somewhat, but they essentially will retain 52% of the ownership of the new property, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
just like we have in this building.
Mm-hmm. Terry, you have opinion?
I talked at length with Mr. Brightsman yesterday, and and reviewed this with him, and this is what the cities will say. So, guess I understand Leanne's comment, but I guess being that I knew what was entailed, I didn't read it that way. I guess so.
And I think we have to. I think it's important that ours and the cities read the same. I don't know. I just don't see a problem with it, but
And I guess the question is, I was not sitting on joint powers, not in on those conversations. So when I read it, and Commissioner Bartley had called me and talked to me, about it before we move forward. But when our public looks at this, I don't know that they can read it and know how much we're paying. I thought we were paying our share of the funds remaining after the lots were credited. Not that it's, and I don't think that just making one change, which says with 52% of the 675,000 cash cost paid by the county, or something like that, that won't make any difference. And we can tell the city we did that. I don't think it matters one way or the other if they're exactly the same.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I still read it as the total cost of the real property shall not exceed $675,000, and together with the conveyance of the two surplus lots. But then at the bottom it does say 52% of said cost, which we've just established as the total cost paid by the county of Brookings at closing, and 48% of said cost paid by the city of Brookings. And then the next paragraph, it talks about the $100,000 will be paid to the seller after the contingency referral period is passed, 52 and 48 for the city. So it does address the 100,000 is split 52-48 immediately, and the balance is split 52-48 at the closing in June of 18. I read it as it's okay.
I guess I do too.
We fine?
You are.
Okay, I got a motion, correct?
Yes.
Mike, second? Call the roll, please.
Miller,
Aye.
Bartley,
Aye.
Pierce,
Aye.
Jensen,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay. Moving on to letter C. Discussion and possible action to authorize the finance officer to post a notice of hearing for a supplemental budget.
This, we need when we do supplemental budgets now, we need the board to authorize Vicky basically to notice that we're going to do a supplemental budget. And what this is for, it was kind of pending your action on that last resolution. The $52,000 is not budgeted in 2017. We can budget for the remaining amount in 2018 at budget time, but 52,000 is not. So we have a couple of options. One is to do a supplemental budget to, my recommendation would be to the building fund to make this purchase this year. Or you can use contingency and do a contingency resolution, which would not then require this action by the board. But keep in mind, we spent contingency down quite a bit last year, almost to nothing. So I would be hesitant to do that halfway through the year at this point. So my recommendation would be to authorize that we, Vicky, to do this notice, and then I think I have dates written down. We would notice it, and we would have that public hearing of that supplemental budget for that 52,000 in July.
I'll move.
Wait. June 20th. Well, we'd have to have that's the other thing. Would have to have a special meeting the week of June 26th, which I think we should establish now, because the closing is going to be part of that resolution says that we will provide that $100,000 as soon as the referral periods have expired. So we need to have our action to make that payment done and ready when that time ends. Does that make sense? So we can't wait until that first meeting into July. That's too late to have that public hearing on that supplemental budget. So we're looking at anytime the week of June 26th to have that meeting.
Chairman, just a quick
Ms.
question. How much do we have in our contingency fund for the balance of this year?
We haven't spent any yet, so it's $612,000 approximately.
612. What traditionally do we use out of that over the years? Half of it?
Last year we only had about 20,000 left.
Okay. Is that traditionally what happens?
No.
Last year was unusual?
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking 52,000 out of the 600 and some thousand out of contingency versus going through the budget action. Do we have any anticipated contingencies at this point that anybody's aware of that I'm not aware of?
There are, there are a few things here and there, minor things at this point, nothing major at this point. But we don't know.
Right.
Some of the budgets that last year, Vicki can maybe speak to that, on what we provided contingency for last year, unanticipated items that, still only halfway through the year, we don't know where we will be at the end of the year.
Right, with the juvenile budget and court-appointed attorney budget and mental health. That's where we really went over last year. And this year, we're looking better because we put more in those budgets, but it is something that, it's really pretty unpredictable yet at this time. So I would hate to say that we're not going to use half of it. Hopefully that's the case, but, at this time it is pretty unpredictable yet.
Would we have the option of using money out of contingency for this so we don't have to have a special meeting? And then maybe in November, if we need more money in contingency, doing a supplemental budget to contingency or whatever other fund it needs to be, and just do it at a regular meeting? Would we have that option?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think I like that idea because, well, we don't have to wait till November. I mean, if we're going to see these anticipated expenses coming in the next 60 days or 90 days, we can make that budget amendment and move forward. So we can do the budget amendment then. This will just be a little bit clearer. This seems like it's a contingency eligible expense at this point. And we'll do a budget if we need to when we get into the law enforcement issues, if we run short of funding there or mental health. We can do that with a budget amendment at that time.
Is that fine?
Yes, and then this would not then require action, and then what we would see in front of you at the next meeting on June 20th would be a contingency resolution.
Okay. Yeah, Ryan? Okay with that? Okay. All right. We'll move on then. We got a 9:30 scheduled agenda item. Mark Richards, Madera Township. Discussion on 217th Street between 467th Avenue and 469th Avenue. 2 miles of Madera Township roads being used as alternate route due to bridge postings on County Road 12. Mark, would you like to come forward?
Good morning.
Morning.
Township guy shows up, you always know they want something, right?
So make sure you introduce yourself. And
Mark Richards, Township Supervisor for Madera Township. I believe this spring I had an opportunity to chat with everybody but Stephanie, who was having too much fun in Arizona at the time, and things in regards to the bridges and the concerns that have been raised in Madera Township. Well, since that time, we have now got a bridge on, I got to keep track of the roads there because, 12, the Sinai Road, that has gone from 14 tons to 6 tons. So for all practical purposes, we have a pedestrian bridge down there. A heavy construction truck, a 1-ton truck, now overloads that bridge. And so we as Madera Township have the one road that crosses the river between the south side of Lake Campbell and the Volga Road without a weight restriction on it. Unfortunately, as a minimum maintenance road, it has its issues of flooding and things. And this spring, since that weight limit has been dropped, we've seen a significant increase in traffic on that road. A tractor can't go across the Sinai Road anymore, a big tractor. And so they're, instead of going to Volga, which is what their option is, they simply take the shortest and easiest route. And I think we're going to continue to see that as all sorts of traffic, not only ag traffic, but commercial traffic as well, start to figure out that they can go that way. And so we're simply looking for some assistance in upgrading the road a little bit because there are some issues there that we need to address, as well as continued maintenance. And, we will continue to spend some money on the road as well, but it's simply going to reach a point where we can't do it. We spent a substantial amount of money this spring getting it simply passable. And, township's significant money and county might be two different numbers, but nevertheless, it is a lot of money. And so we're simply looking for some help and assistance on that to aid not only the Madera Township community, but any commercial or vehicle traffic that's moving east and west in southern Brookings County.
okay.
This would be Township Road 217, just so that everybody is aware. It is 1 mile directly south of the Sinai Road. It runs between the Country Club Road and.
I guess what request for assistance, what type of construction you already talked
Right
about?
away, the first thing we have is the flow of the river has moved to the east. I think you're all aware of that, and so it goes through this road as well. And where the river crosses the road, there are 3 culverts there. Well, they're all too high, so we need to look at lowering those. And perhaps a 4th culvert would be an option to assist with that as well. And then we put in a significant amount of fresh concrete this spring, and then you get 2.5 inches of rain, and I think it washed away about half of what we put in there already. So it would, first would be probably lowering the culverts, move more water quickly across that road, and then some additional ballast on the road to be able to maintain it as such would be the 2 things that would be the most important in our mind.
I guess, have you gotten any estimates at all?
We have not done that at this point. I guess, one, we figured we better make sure we've got a partner in crime on this, and then we'd move forward with that, because as a township, we're not going to be able to do it. I know that. I don't know what it would cost to lower those 3 culverts at this point.
Mr. Chairman. Mark, as far as what you said, you spent substantial amount of money this year improving the road. Can you give us a figure?
It's been about $7,000.
About 7,000?
Which is, pushing 10% of our budget.
That's 10% of your budget right now.
Yeah.
For the year?
For the year.
And you have other roads, obviously, that you have to maintain with the other.
33 miles to go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm new at this. I'm trying to get it figured out here.
Sure. No, I
exactly where you're
understand.
at with costs. And you haven't gone out and asked for any estimates on lowering the culverts. I'm going to guess that Richard could probably tell us that that's going to be rather expensive.
Yeah, you definitely have to get a permit through the Corps and do a hydrology study to see what level they would find acceptable, and then just go by that. I would say that would be in the neighborhood of maybe $2,500 to $3,000.
Okay. How long would that study take? This doesn't require an environmental study or anything. It takes a year to get.
Well, it depends upon where you're looking at doing it. In the environment they're at, I wouldn't have any clue of what wetland designation or anything like that is. But anytime you change the elevation, they're going to want a certificate of no rise, which shows what you're doing is not having a detrimental impact of more than 1% of the existing levels. And so depending upon what they'd have to do, it's kind of like the best example I'd give you is kind of what we found out on 213th Street. When you got the engineers doing the hydraulics and everything else, it showed it needed significant more attention than what we would have anticipated originally. The same might hold true here. I know for a fact you'd have to get a 404 permit because it would be more than just general maintenance because they're not washed out and you're not replacing. At a minimum, probably about $2,500.
Your best guess estimate on time frame to go through those procedures to get to the construction date? Would it be this
depending
summer?
Depending upon workload, if you found somebody that could do it right away, I would say within a month, maybe 6 weeks would be a better conservative estimate.
Because we know the Sonny Road bridges aren't going to be done this, to alleviate the problem. I just want to make sure that we're not throwing money at something that, next summer we're going to correct.
Well, that would be one of my concerns. Mark touched on the flooding aspect. That thing's there's 5 different spots that the water will come over the road. It's almost like a detention pond. It's a very difficult situation because there's no real alternative route but to raise and improve that road to accept two-way traffic will take quite an improvement. And like he said, the stuff they put down washed away portion of it. That was just from what I would call normal rainfall. It's,
So Dick, are you saying that anytime we put in a culvert, we have to have a permit through the Corps?
negative. If you do routine maintenance we're falling under our national-wide permit. We can do that no matter what, but it has to be apples to apples. If it was a 24-inch metal culvert, and we took out a 24-inch metal culvert, put in the same length, the same elevation, whatever, that's considered general maintenance. If you change anything, then you're required to go get a 404 permit, which would probably be speeded up if you're clear in your explanation of what work you're going to do. You're not going to have any equipment in water or disrupt stuff downstream, then it'll probably move pretty fast. But if it looks like something you'll have an impact clear to the Sioux River by what you're doing, they might have some concerns and might voice an opinion.
Okay, I want to ask my question again because I think we might be talking about two different things. I think you're talking about those 3 culverts that are too high, okay? And that would be a structure that we would need to do all of those things on. But let's say we've got a road out in the county that we want to put 1 culvert across. Do we need to have a permit from the Corps to go and put a new culvert in somewhere?
No, we have to go get the permit. I'm sorry, I thought you said, do we already have a permit?
No, I'm asking if we want to put a new culvert
Yep.
in somewhere on a road, any culvert, anywhere, we have to have a Corps permit to put in a culvert.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I guess, my concern is putting money, like you guys already put money on, and us putting more, and that the real fix is not taking a minimum maintenance road and making it into a 2-lane road, and that's the main fix, and that's not a small job, and that's not something that,
No, it's not.
it isn't, and I worry about throwing money at a bad situation that within a year or two we're right back to where we are, and it seems like that's the way that road ends up all the time, is water coming across it depending on the rain, and that could happen again next year even if we put the culverts in too. And it's almost like, because it's a minimum maintenance already, the improvement is a much larger improvement, not just a couple Band-Aids. I think we'd be just throwing money. I guess I would rather try to look at ways to put money towards what's causing the problem, which is the bridge, and try to accelerate that and see if there's a way that we could get that going within the next, it takes 2 years for a bridge. And
Well, that would be my question.
Yeah.
Because it gets asked to me all the time is where do the Sinai Road bridges fall into a replacement situation here? Yeah. If a bridge replacement in Brookings County is entirely dependent upon state funding to do that, I mean, it could be 5 years.
Right.
That's hopeful.
Right. And that's,
So, I mean, are those the next 2 bridges you're going to apply for? I don't know. You have a pretty big plate full of bad bridges on that, and we understand that. But, I mean, that's a question that gets asked to us all the time, and I certainly don't have the answer, and I'm quite sure that at this point you guys don't know how they all fit in there either. I don't know, Dick.
Yeah, it's just one of them between a rock and a hard place. One thing, Mark, is there any way down there, when I drove it, there wasn't, but with the narrow profile of the township road, is there any way a person could make it, the people going eastbound would go south to 217 and go across, and the people going westbound could go north and go across like 218, or would they still run in?
218 has a bad bridge, too. Well, 218 is a Sinai Road.
Okay.
Is going the right direction. No, 218, you can't go. There's nothing that goes further south. So we have 17, and then the Sinai Road would be 16. 15 has a bad bridge. 14 or 20th Street South has a bad bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to go all the way to Volga going north to get across the river. on that. So that's,
Yeah,
or I'm not sure, 8th Street South, if we're
yeah.
good at whatever that would be,
That's the one.
213.
That's 213.
Yeah.
What have
So-
you spent your $7,000? What's the township spent the $7,000
Well, we
on?
put a culvert, we improved a culvert and then crushed concrete, basically, to haul in and set in place.
So you put in a culvert?
We improved an existing culvert. You know, obviously the last 6 weeks, it was a good spring for the road, but it was a bad May for the road with that 4 inches of rain in a week and things. Saw substantial water over the road and just create some issues. But it, yeah, you know, like Ryan says, it's throwing, you know, money down a dark hole. I'm not going to argue that. But I also do understand people well enough to know that they are going to take the shortest route regardless of who and what and when we do something. With that and with public safety in mind, you kind of have to work your way that direction a little bit. And as I said, it's the one road between the south side of Lake Campbell and the Volga Road that is currently not weight restricted, I believe, unless 213 is that
Well,
way.
yeah, and to get to the south side of Lake Campbell, you have to cross.
Yeah, you can't get to the south
get
side of Lake
there
Campbell
either.
unless you're west of the lake.
Right.
Yeah, so it you know it's really got a lot of people down there, kind of between a rock and a hard spot. You know, I mean, absolutely everything they have weighs more than 6 tons on that, and they just can't get anywhere, and people are going to do that. I think everybody that's ever worked with the public understands that, you know, they're going to find that shorter route and easiest route, and unfortunately this road falls within that. You know, our other option, and we haven't certainly discussed it as a board, is to simply close the road. And that would certainly be something that we're probably going to have to look at if we don't get some assistance, at least to be able to maintain some traffic in there.
Especially if it's underwater. I mean, you
Right,
can't-
and it does get closed during those time periods.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean,
But, you know, at the same time, you know, we need to be able to maintain traffic for the landowners through there too. I think there's one that's kind of landlocked in the middle there, but, you know, padlock on a gate and everything can take care of that as well, so.
Other than replacing culverts, which I understand from what Dick just said, we can't do without a permit from the Corps, okay? And we won't be getting that
Anytime soon.
anytime soon. Is there something else we can do to assist?
Well, you know, again, since the rain here a couple of weeks ago, you know, it did some substantial washing again, and do I know exactly how many loads? I would guess that probably be 3 or 4 loads of crushed concrete, you know, that we would need. I mean, it's rutted pretty bad right now. On the other hand, we're kind of over that seasonal crunch, you know. Farmers have got their crops in, and, you know, they're not looking at getting across the river back and forth. And so it's perhaps become more of recreational traffic down there. And, you know, so we probably have a little window of time to do some of that sort of thing. But it is rutted real badly right now.
And
We'd
Dick,
prob-
are you able to give an idea, 3 or 4 loads of crushed concrete, what that would cost?
$7.50 a ton, $8
yeah,
a ton.
something like that. I don't
$100
know.
bucks,
Mark bought
$50
that
bucks.
pile, so I don't know if he changed the price or not.
I don't think so, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay. So it'd be right in that neighborhood.
So,
$7.50 a ton.
and how many tons would we have?
So it'd be
in-
about $80 a truckload, not counting transportation costs, just for material.
I guess I was thinking belly dumps. I'm thinking big trucks, not little trucks.
Oh,
So we'd be
You're
talking.
thinking side dumpers.
Yeah,
that's 25 tons, so
25
yeah.
ton.
So it'd be, you know, a couple $100 a load.
yeah, a couple $100 a load, $250, I suppose.
Yeah, $300. So probably $1,200 to $1,500 initially.
If we were to ask the Corps for a permit for another culvert, is there a reason to think, and I think all of us have been out and looked at that. We do know that those 3 culverts aren't the way they're supposed to be, but that's probably more money than we've got to put into that. But another culvert might or might not make a difference. Is there any way to know for sure if that would make a difference? If we're looking at a 2-year
Right
project?
now, the culvert's the high part of that whole mile road.
Yeah, well, and also that's where it would come in to gain that certificate of no rise. That's what you would have to show the Corps, and if it's pretty cut and dried that what you're going to do is not going to have any ill effects, they'll probably approve it more or less like a rubber stamp, because it's not a big, you're not building a bridge through a wildlife sanctuary or anything like that. You're just putting another culvert in or lowering the ones that are there. But that, depending upon the environment, or I shouldn't use environment because people think of the whole gamut, but by environment, I just mean the location of these culverts. If it's not in any sensitive environment or area, I don't think it would move very slow. I think it'd move pretty quick as long as we were showing we weren't going to have a ill effect on downstream people.
So what would we have to do in order to have some data in front of us that would say it would cost this much to do one culvert that's not attached to those 3 that are still there, and this is the impact, this is where it would or would not help, or what it would cost if we are able to move the 3 culverts that are there down, what that would cost?
Right.
And what impact that would have? How do we make a decision if we don't know those things?
Right. It would be around the 2,500 to 3,000 if it was just standard. And if you need one of those HECRA studies like we had to do on 213, then you're going to get up in the neighborhood of $8,000-9,000, because that's very involved for them to do that, because they're running numbers through depending upon rain events, and you got to design it for at least a 10-year storm event. That's where their time and money or charges would come into play. If it doesn't need a HECRA, or I forget what that stands for, but it's like it's a more involved study of the hydraulics of the project you're doing to determine that you are not.
And once you get the study, I mean, it's not saying if you put another culvert in, you got 5 sections of road that go underwater. You can put culverts for 2 miles and not affect anything unless you raise the road.
Yeah. And if you raise the road, you might back up water on other people, which wouldn't make them very happy either. It's a real difficult situation.
No. We do have a 9:45 scheduled. I think you're looking for an answer, though, for assistance with the
I would say we're
and-
looking for yes, as a county, we would be willing to participate once additional information is available. I mean, I was unaware of the permit thing, Dick. So, there's needs to be that step. And, if we could get that crushed concrete probably replaced back in there, that would take care of, unless it starts raining again. So,
Well, I think we're always willing to discuss when we had more data.
It's hard to say, yes, we'll participate when we don't know what the cost is going
well,
to be.
that I wouldn't hold your feet to the fire on that either, Stephanie. But it's the same situation for us. Is we're looking at that road as an option, but we're much closer to a time where that option isn't viable for us either. Simply for a cost basis and things. And I guess then our option is just to buy a whole bunch of gates and lock it up. And
I guess what I'd say is, can you get an estimate from contractor to supply and blade out crushed concrete to fill your, and bring that to the next meeting, and we'll look at that.
If I just get that to Dick, that'd be a proper channels. That might be the easiest. So.
Unless we need to get it on the agenda.
Yeah, I think you better get it to Stacy.
Okay. I
Because
can do
then we
that.
would be able to, we'll have it noticed for
It'll be
action.
on our agenda, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll have that to Stacy within the week. So. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Good luck.
Moving on, 9:45, Dave Linneman, Preston Township. Discussion on 465th Avenue between 196th and 200th Street. Several miles of Preston Township roads being used as alternate route due to bridge construction on County Road 7. Dave, welcome.
Dave, and I'm in this.
Can you introduce yourself in the microphone? And
Barry Loomis. Well, we've got a section of road from 196th down to 198th, and then from 465th to 466th Street. It's being used as an alternate route for the detour for the bridge construction on 466th. And I guess when we were notified that the bridges were going to be under construction, we knew that we were probably going to be in trouble. But this road is school bus road plus mail route road, so there was no way to protect it. We've got a bridge on this road that is not up to par either. The roads leading up to the bridge it's a fairly good angle coming from the bridge from the south, and the road is in terrible disrepair. It's getting used as the detour. We own a farm, as long as Dave does, on the detour that you guys had established for 466th, and it's not getting that heavily used. Matter of fact, if there's a couple dozen vehicles during a 12-hour day that use the detour other than what used it before, that would be a stretch. Most of the traffic is running down our township road.
Just like the guy said before, that people are finding the shortest way and they know it, and that's where they're driving it. They just insist on going on this little township road.
And it's, there's holes in this road around the bridge especially. It comes off the bridge when you come off of 196th and go onto the bridge. It takes a detour for the county line, or a little jog for the county line to the west, and then there's a 90-degree curve, and then it goes up a hill. And there is holes, chuck holes, that are 8 to 10 inches deep, and it's constant. We've got local farm traffic, and that's kind of how we gravel our roads. Every year we do a 5 miles of township roads. We spend over $25,000 in gravel on 5 miles of road, which for our budget we've been doing a very good job keeping our roads up. Up until last year, 465th was in really good shape. Maybe we would have looked at one stretch, maybe 1 mile of 465th to gravel, just as routine graveling of our 1 mile of 5 miles throughout the township. But now we're going to be faced with about 3.2 miles of gravel on this road, and it's to the point where we don't have anything left. Now, the gentleman that lives on this road sees a lot of traffic go by, and we're even seeing state vehicles going by on this road that aren't using the detour, they're using our township road. So if the state vehicles aren't following the detour, I'm not so sure we can expect everybody else to either. It's a bad situation. We're looking at it as a liability. When we had the 3-inch rain 2 weeks ago, we had spots in this road that just fell apart. You can put flags up, but we can't close the road. It is up until school was out, and a mail route road. So we feel maybe that we should have been looking back, we should have been a little proactive and come to you before the detour was even started and said we can foresee what's going to happen here, but we didn't. Dave has been working pretty closely with the county superintendent, and we've been told that there's no money. Well, what do we do now to fix our situation on 3.5 miles of road? If you guys didn't divert any money for it, were we supposed to have been saving for 5 years? We don't know. So that's why we're here to visit with you guys to see if there's any relief we could get from you. We don't plan on doing any road maintenance or graveling until the bridge is open, or we know what's going to happen. It's just going to become a super highway. So we've been blading on our regular maintained blade. Our blade comes every 21 days, I believe is what. But now we've got him coming every once a week. It just got to the point where, you know, we've got to blade it more. So, but now we're blading nothing back and forth. There's no windrow. There's no gravel left on this road. When it rains, it's black. It's down to the bare fill that the road was built with. We've got rocks showing up.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask, how many times your township has bladed this road?
You know, up until now, it's been every couple weeks, but now we're once a week because it's just, with the rain that we had 2 weeks ago, that's what really sent this road into, but you could have slime on the road and 8-inch deep potholes filled with water, and you can watch commercial trucks going up and down this road because it's the shortest route in between Esteline and Bruce. It's no miles longer. So anybody that lives in Esteline could drive 77 to work and not have any further miles, but they're not.
Yep.
You know, they go by the detour sign in Esteline and they drive this road because it's the same distance they're used to driving. I guess we can't control that.
And we can't control that either.
No, no.
Were any of the trucks involved with the bridge project, the cement trucks, trucks hauling riprap or materials, did they ever use the road?
No.
They never did.
When is that bridge supposed to be done?
Month.
Hopefully by the end of June. They right now they're waiting for another crew to come. They're working and doing the best they can. The deck's all poured and everything, and they'll start backfilling the ends and getting approaches done in the very near future. But I was out there yesterday, and he just said that with what the people they have, they're doing what they can. So,
I mean, it's unfortunate that your road got in the condition that it's in. Once a week blading probably not enough. It probably needed to be bladed more just to keep the holes out of it.
I suppose you're probably right.
But the traffic is just beating the gravel away.
Yeah.
Take that much traffic.
part of the thing, we've done our part since the project started last November. We've bladed whenever our blade is going by or working on the north end of the regular detour. We've taken and just got the approaches off the paved roads, but I guess I would question whether they actually bladed their road even once a month for quite a while. Lately, they've been out there. A week ago, I was out there, and that's the first time I've ever seen a blade since November. But
has the county blade done this stretch of road when
no,
they
all
travel?
we do is where that first washboard right from the stop signs, it's so bad that, you know, but there again, with washboards, if the conditions aren't correct, you're just going to make them worse by blading them and creating more loose stuff. But we just try to be as cooperative as we can, but we didn't want to take over blading the road. We already take care of the detour and everything else. So.
Well, it is our road. It is our bridge project, and I think the county could have helped out with some more blading out there. But I don't know, other commissioners, your thoughts?
So you're looking for assistance? Are you looking to add gravel?
That's what we'd like, is assistance with re-graveling,
But-
just to get it back to the situation we were in.
But are you willing to wait until the bridge is done? Because it won't do any good now.
Yep.
No.
It's a
and-
bad road now, and it's going to be bad July 1st. But you know, we've the local people that live on that road that have to beat up and down it with their vehicles every day. They're understanding, you know, and we've been working closely with them. But yeah, we've informed them, you know, if that's okay, and they said we would prefer that because, you know, who knows what kind of traffic we're going to get if you go out and re-gravel and maintain the road now. So I'm afraid when it was done, we wouldn't have any gravel left anyway.
How many miles then?
It's about 3.2.
How many truckloads?
Well, Our normal re-graveling is 25 loads per mile, which is 20 yards. It'd be about 26 ton per load. We've had
About
our
500 ton.
graveling people out there looking at it, and they said minimum of 30 loads per mile to get it even close to where we were, but they would recommend 35 loads per mile. And the difference is $4,440 for 30 loads per mile, or it's $5,180 for 35 loads per mile, and that is trucking included.
Would you say those two numbers one more time?
5,180 for 35 loads per mile, or it's 4,440 for 30 yards per mile.
How many ton, just realistically, a couple years ago when there was no gravel on the road whatsoever and you put them few loads up there by Tracy's and a little bit south, how much was put on at that time?
On what year was that?
That was 2016.
Did you supply the gravel or did we?
No, you guys did. And you also did the east-west part on
Just
maybe
on
197 or
on
something.
465th, we put on 14 side dumps on that area
Okay.
on 465th.
On the east-west part, I know there's gravel up to the two residents
They
up
did
there.
they did the hills where it was bare.
I don't have the east-west roads. I didn't pick them out of the bill.
Okay.
And 465th is easy to pick out because we know where we graveled, and our contractor does give us descriptions of where the gravel was laid. But when we go into the east-west roads, I can't tell you if it was on that specific mile or not. So I don't know, which road are you talking about?
If you turn off of Highway 7 and go west for 1 mile and then they go north up to the bridge, last year you put like a load on each hill and you put a little bit by that guy's driveway and then you put some in front of Tracy Johnson's. I guess I can see their concern and I think we could help out, but I don't think it's no 3.5 miles at the rates they're talking about. In my opinion, putting gravel on the bare spots that were bare before doesn't interest me, but putting gravel back like by Tracy's or whatever, if the traffic has tracked that off and made it less of a road than what they had improved, then I think we owe it to them to restore that the way it was before the project started. But if there's no gravel there to begin with and never has been gravel, then it really isn't in our best interest
3
to.
miles from the county line there, right there. It's 2 miles south and 1 mile east, go back over to the oil. And that first
Right.
mile is a little bit longer than a mile. That's where we get to point 2. But right there, that first mile, we just did work on that last fall on that hill, cut that hill all down and re-gravelled that, and that gravel is all gone again. There's exactly 3+ miles there of just plain no gravel.
That's right. We've went out there. We've been there. It ain't like we haven't driven it. We go by at a minimum of once a week. And like I say, the areas that had gravel before, if there's less gravel there now, I think we owe it to you to put a little back or half of it.
There's less gravel on 3.2 miles than there was before.
Well, there was no gravel there in the first place.
No, that's not
Oh,
right.
yes.
That's not right. We patched and fixed those roads last fall.
I understand that. I drive that road at least once a week. I understand what you're talking about, but I also understand what the condition of that road was and what it looked like through the winter, through after you put the gravel up by Tracy's and addressed the worst spots. And now when I drive it, I look at the spots that you addressed and have concerns that they might be less than desirable, but I have no concern for the areas that never had any gravel to begin with.
I guess we'll have to disagree on that. I would say there's, on those 3 miles out there, was areas that had no gravel to start with.
Right.
I guess we'll have to disagree.
We didn't come to
I know
point
within
fingers.
I know within Tracy's property there. I mean, he has a fair amount of feed trucks and his feed wagon he's dragging. So there's some areas there that
Well, Tracy does do an awful lot of graveling himself.
Well,
He does have a gravel pit that he hauls gravel by his yard for, so the gravel you might see right by Tracy's actually wasn't township gravel.
Mhm.
So, I gotta respect him a little for that.
but I do
But
know,
yeah, you
I
know,
do
it is
know
a
down
busy
by the,
road.
I do know down by the bridge that has been washboarded for years. It always has been. It's not good. I have to agree with Dick. I think, you know, there's problems there before this project started.
Do you agree that you guys, maybe, the detour has given us quite a bit more traffic?
Well, I wouldn't doubt it would. The detour, I mean, is the detour. We can't, like I said, we can't control the traffic where they're gonna drive.
You know, it's unfortunate that the townships to the east of 466, those roads don't go through. You know, it's a patchwork of bridges and closed roads, so there's no alternate route. It's either detour, our township road, or Highway 77. Them are the only three ways
Well,
for people to the north to get down.
Yep.
And, you know, it's
e-
unfortunate.
To the east, that's the way the cement trucks came in. That's the way all the supply trucks come in on Eureka Townships.
Yep.
I mean, I've been blading those roads. I mean, I know what they were like.
Well, they can come in from that way. They did, but people from the north that commute
Right.
can't come from
Yep.
the south or from the north and go south. So
Now,
Ryan, yeah,
you were talking about you were going to maybe do a mile anyway. You guys have in your budget to do a certain amount every
5 miles we do a year.
You do 5 miles there, and you were probably planning on doing a mile of this one here anyway. Is prior
More
to
than
this?
likely, we probably would have done a mile, to be real honest. Yeah.
Okay. Dick, on these types of bridge projects, I know this is a state one, this is the STIP and everything like that. Is there anything on a contingency fund or anything like that that when something comes up that you can draw off of to do that?
There would if, because normally if this was the detour route,
Right.
they would make amends for the added stuff, but what the state is claiming on this is that they are taking care of the detour route, and this is not a designated detour route, so they really don't want to give us any help or relief whatsoever.
the state's helping out with the detour route.
If, what they do, Larry, is when they get to the end of the project, if, let's say, they came up with money that's under budget or whatever, they would allow us to make application or ask for, or have the contractor haul some stuff and they would combine it with part of the
Bridge project.
But to my knowledge, I haven't talked to John Ritterhouse in depth about how they're doing budget-wise or whatever. I've just been asking if we're on schedule and how it looks for.
Has the
whatever,
county
but-
been subsidized for their blading on the detour?
No.
Pardon me?
Has the county been subsidized for the blading they've been doing on their own road?
No.
Have they been doing extra maintaining of that road?
Oh, absolutely. We fix soft spots and whatever. It's all documented. We just have to make.
But it's still a county road, county bridge project.
Yeah.
I don't, it's using state funds on a county bridge project. We're in charge of that project. I mean, plain and simple.
So did I understand you to say that when the project is done in June, you're going to re-gravel, and you think it's going to cost between $12,000 and $15,000 to do that?
Yeah, exactly, yes.
And you probably would have been in your budget that you have for 1 mile, that'd probably bring the cost to you down somewhere around 10,000, 8 to 10,000.
If we would have, yep,
The
if we would have used
additional
one of
cost
these miles, yeah.
That's outside what you've got budgeted. And what's the Preston Township budget for a year?
We probably take in about $50,000. So if we're spending 25 on regular graveling projects, another 3 to 4 on patch graveling projects, that leaves us with the remainder of our income distributed for all the other.
I am in favor of giving Preston Township some money to help with that gravel cost when the bridge is done. I don't know what that dollar amount is, okay?
A percentage,
Pardon me?
a percentage.
And I don't know if percentage is what we want to do, or if we want to say a dollar amount, or if maybe the rest of you aren't in favor, but I think we should help Preston Township with the cost of putting gravel back on that road when the bridge is done. We can't take any action today, is that right? And what we would need to do is talk about a dollar amount, and then we'd have, if or a percentage, whichever way, if we were interested, then it'd have to go back on our, we'd have to notice it for action at our next meeting. Where are the rest of you on making a contribution toward the cost of re-graveling that once the bridge is done?
Commissioner Bartley.
I guess my thoughts are following your thoughts as far as what the township's budget is for maintaining the roads. I would like to see a request come back, because this is what, after June when the bridge is done and the traffic is hopefully not continuing to take that shortcut, what your intentions are within your entire budget. Break it down for us so we can see, here's the cost for the rest of the roads. This is what we anticipate we'll spend this year. We're committed to spend this year. I imagine you have a budget process, so you should have that pretty well orchestrated already. And then throw us a number that we know we can either accept all of it, part of it, percentage of it, or something like that. In other words, right now it's just kind of, well, here's some estimates, but we don't know what you're spending on the rest of it, what's left of your budget, what part of it is, as Commissioner Krogman had said, you already agreed it's in your budget. So if you can bring all those figures to us after the bridge is completed in July sometime, we can look at it then. And
Do you want us to go ahead? What do we do when the bridge is complete, just for timeliness and liability purposes on our part? When the bridge opens back up, should we re-gravel immediately just for liability purposes?
Well, whatever you've done in the past with the road, your liability really doesn't change much. If you had ruts in it before and it was a problem, to me, if the road gets really bad, people will quit using it as a shortcut. So, at the same time, you don't want to let it deteriorate to that point either. But we have the same problems right now with in the city with the new construction on 22nd Avenue and 6th Street being closed. We got people going through the bank tellers backwards, trying to make a shortcut out of something. It's kind of a mess, but people will do what people do. You can't fix stupid sometimes. It's just, it happens. It's unfortunate, but how we need to deal with it is get us an actual cost figure and estimate what your budget is, what you're spending on whatever, so we can say, let's participate or not participate and at what level. So I just need more concrete numbers to make that decision, and hopefully we can do it pretty quickly in July.
And I think what he was asking is, would it make a difference to how people would feel about assisting Preston Township, whether they'd already done the work and came back and said it cost us this much, or if they come in and ask for money before they do the work? Does that make a difference to anybody?
Well, yeah.
Well, we'll do that. We're gonna, as soon as the bridge opens up, we're gonna gravel. We will be on the agenda for the next meeting then, and we won't have estimates. We'll probably have total figures.
And if you got a request to Stacy, once you have your figures, you could say, this is our budget, and that this is how much we're asking for, and she could put it on for action, and we can adjust, or we can say yes or no at that time, but then we don't have to come back again. Is that the right way to proceed?
I mean, you were here ahead of the project. We know it's an issue, so we've had this discussion. In my mind, if you've done the work or not done the work, don't wait to do it, because I would have an issue if you did the work, not talk to us, and then came afterwards and said, here's our bill. We didn't like that. But you're here now. We're discussing it prior to the work. That's good enough for me, I guess.
We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody need a break, or you move on?
I'm good.
Short break.
Short break.
Okay, call us back to order. Letter D, Mike, I believe this is yours. Compromise and settlement of county aid lien. Discussion and possible action on resolution number 17-24, a resolution releasing a county aid lien. Go ahead.
Okay, anyway, this is a gentleman that had gotten some assistance from the county, and I guess, I should have written down the year. Anyway, his income was, it was really one of those kind of on the borderline whether or not the county would be held liable. Anyway, so we went ahead and done that, but looking back on it, his request for the waiver is to purchase a home. To mine, and at this time, he doesn't even have a home chosen yet or picked out yet, so it isn't even to that point. Also looking at his repayment history, on that he has only paid a little over $1,000 in a 3-year period, and I guess my recommendation is to deny it just based upon the this is not what's really probably holding him back from the home, and he should be able to pay us without any trouble.
Okay. Look for a motion.
So his request is for us just to get rid
No,
of.
he wants to make a settlement of $6,200 on the $12,300 that he owes us.
And so he would pay that right away.
Correct.
That's what his request is, okay.
He did do a financial, I just got that in, and he does have enough to pay the whole thing off without any of the compromise.
And so your recommendation is to deny this, and he still owes how much on there now?
He still owes $12,300.
Okay. He's paid a certain amount down,
He's
right?
he's paid $1,000. I think it's $1,040 in a 3-year period. So I don't think he's even actually done it in good. I question the good faith part of it even. And you know, he's paying $400 a month in rent in his statement, and he has saved up almost $30,000 that he saved up. I just don't know if he's, in my opinion, he's not made a good faith effort on a legal obligation on his part to pay it down. If that had been done and it was looking like that's what's keeping him from purchasing a home, then I would probably go the other way on it, but I do not see that as what's taking place.
Mr. Chair, that was going to be my comment, was that when I look at his repayment schedule, it's pretty sad. Most people can afford $50 a month. And I don't think he's made a good faith effort either. And so I would not be inclined to dismiss this.
So we need a motion to decline or what?
No, we need a motion to approve and then we vote. And I'll make a motion to approve for purposes of voting.
Got a motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Krogman?
No.
Bartley?
No.
Pierce? Miller?
No.
Jensen?
Abstain.
Motion fails.
So item 2, we can dismiss that here. Item number 2 underneath there. Means it died. Letter E, action to approve agreement number 17-35, work order LGA-23-17-BRF 6319, parentheses 0017-4, PCN 06HT for structure number 06-169 239.
Move approval.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Bartley?
Aye.
Pierce? Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Letter F, action to approve agreement number 17-36, a contract for geotechnical investigation between Brookings County and South Dakota Department of Transportation. Look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll, please.
Pierce? Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Letter G, action to approve agreement number 17-37, an application for occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Sioux Valley Energy.
Move approval?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Letter H, action to approve agreement number 17-38, an application for occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Sioux Valley Energy.
Move approval?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Letter I, action to approve agreement number 17-39, an application for occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Sioux Valley Energy.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. No discussion? Call the roll.
Bartley?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Letter J, action to approve agreement number 17-40, an application for occupancy of right-of-way of county highways made by Sioux Valley Energy.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Pierce?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Letter K, action to approve items as surplus property to be used as trade-ins or to be sold via online auction.
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion here? Marty, some background?
We have the old generation of weapons right now, and city police agencies are switching from 40 caliber handguns to 9. City police switched a year ago or 2 years ago, and just for training purposes, a couple of my people are on city SWAT team, and we do training together, and it just makes sense that we all have the same caliber, and then we're just what I'm doing is upgrading weapons. Even though, thank God that we don't have shootings and things in larger communities, but there is an issue with guns that become old. They have to upgrade just like they do computers and things like that. And so I have an armor deputy that tries to fix ours with springs and things like that. We need to upgrade. It actually is not. They're giving us a good price on our trade-in to do all this. Is just a little over $2,000, which is in my budget.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Miller?
Aye.
Krogman?
Aye.
Bartley?
Aye.
Pierce?
Aye.
Jensen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Number 9, Commission Department Director Report.
First thing is, if the board wants to discuss a response to, we received a letter from Jack Otta with the Lake Sinai Lake Association regarding County Road, the culverts under County Road 11 at the Lake Sinai outlet, wondering about the right-of-way specifically. Is there any?
I would challenge anybody to find anything in writing that tells us what that right-of-way is. You know, he wants us to say, we researched and researched and researched, and we could find nothing. I think initially, and this is just conjecture on my part, I think initially it probably was a 66-foot right-of-way. But I think that it was made larger, whether that was 80 or 100, who knows, by the looks of the Sioux Valley poles in a certain area. But we could find nothing in writing as to what the right-of-way was. So I don't know how we could give him any written communication because we have nothing to back it up. So I don't know how we could do that.
As for the right-of-way, how about maintenance schedule?
We've been doing it and documenting it just because you can't go out, you could post a man there 24/7 and it ain't enough. So we document that we're out there at least weekly, and we also go out after every storm event. We mark whether there's any changes, we mark the level of water. I don't know what else we can do. I mean, I wouldn't, I guess, any more than friendly conversation. If he requests information, you just tell him what we know. You know, same way with the right-of-way. As far as I know, it's 66 feet unless he can prove me wrong, and then I'll accept it. But till then, I would just tell him 66 feet. We don't have to put it in a letter or nothing. Just put the burden of proof on him.
Yeah, we have no way. I mean,
Because as far as taking care of it, you know, Larry, like you say, maintenance. If there's a big rock or a tree washes up against it, we'll go open it up. But as far as saying we're going to go out there and duplicate his effort by getting on my hands and knees and pulling the cattails by hand for 4 hours, I'll use a weed eater or something, but I ain't going to do that. I mean, we can keep that open. I guess I have a different definition of obstruction than he does.
Mm-hmm.
He would say a mosquito flying through the culvert is an obstruction, and that to me is not an obstruction.
Just a
Mr. Bartley.
quick question back on the right-of-way access. Since there are no documents providing that, is there any way we establish that legally? Do we have a survey company go out and negotiate with the landowners and establish what the right-of-way is at this point in time by agreement? So we've got a right-of-way that's established?
We've had that issue in the past with a lot of different roads when they were many years ago upgraded. It was a mutual agreement between the highway supervisor and the landowners, and it was just established that way. Nothing was ever recorded. That's the problem. There's certain roads that if state money was used, they were recorded, but otherwise they were not.
So to try and record those things by using today's standards would be, well, obviously you wouldn't want to pick one project. You'd have to pick every road in the county to try and establish that, and it'd be a major expense to try and do that.
Exactly. Basically, what we'd have to do, Mike, is just like we did on 34th Avenue, we would have to approach the landowner with an offer to purchase X amount of right-of-way if we want to be assured that that is our right-of-way.
Right.
Purchase it, record it, and then it would happen. Otherwise, until it's done formally by legal methods, it's 66 feet in my mind, but that's just me.
I presume that a good example of this is County Road 23 through Aurora. When we did the new road there, the fence lines and everything, for years it was at 100 feet. We went and looked and researched it, couldn't find anything. Each landowner thought it was 100 feet. Each of the landowners along the project were more than willing. We worked with them. They signed off and we recorded it legally. And it didn't cost us a load or two of gravel on the driveway, but that was it. I mean, it was not a big problem for us, but we've got a lot of roads in the county are the same way.
Well, in this particular one, could we do the same process and establish by agreement? Or would we never get to an agreement on this particular right-of-way?
There's no point.
I think the reasoning behind this is Mr. Otto would like to work outside of the right-of-way on his own. So that's his reasoning for requesting the actual right-of-way.
Okay. but we don't want to enter into a negotiation to establish it right away and record it at this point for that particular piece, or don't we? No?
Why would we take a position that it's anything different than every other road that we've got like that? It should be the same as everything else unless, and that's set by statute, unless there is something out there, and Commissioner Miller's looked and there's nothing, is that right?
No, we researched.
I've called the utility, Kingbrook and also Sioux Valley. They don't have any, they've established their utilities beyond the 100-foot just because of if future road improvements. But they don't have the actual documents either.
So what this, Mr. Otto, is requiring is that we establish that.
He wants a letter stating that.
Well, I think we could send a letter that just says by whatever our statute is, that says is it 66 and 2/3 or is it 66? Yeah. Yeah. I think we could send a letter that says the commission's position is that by SDCL, whatever our statute number is, it is 66 feet and cite the statute.
We have nothing, no other documents saying otherwise.
And addressing the maintenance intervals, what you suggest putting in for that?
Nothing. We already told him at the meeting that he attended that we were not going to give him a written maintenance schedule.
Right.
I mean, it's been handled periodically. I'm sure the highway department, if somebody goes by there, they see something, they. So, but you're not gonna be held to stopping there every morning, is what I'm saying. You might be gone a day and somebody's not gonna specifically go out there and do this. I don't wanna be held to stopping there daily or.
So to Commissioner Pierce's suggestion, we send a letter that uses South Dakota codified law as our basis for the 66 feet from the center line. Do we then say, if this is an agreement, we'll have it recorded?
No.
And see if he
You never
wants to.
record those.
No.
They're
Don't
not
record
recorded.
those? But I thought you said you recorded one for something else.
We did for County Road 23, but we did the survey. It was within the road. It was within the road project.
Oh,
It was
okay.
all surveyed and
All right.
and done.
No, I like just sending the letter then, making our position clear.
Right.
According to statute, this is what it is, and that's our position.
And we then, in holding with that, we have then gone above and beyond because we went out and I was with her, so I know that she did it. She sprayed a good 5 feet beyond the apron of the culverts. And that's 100 feet.
And do we have any position on whether or not outside of our area they can do what they want to do, right? Whoever
It's
owns the
private
land. Yeah,
property.
whoever owns the land.
We have an easement. He's upset about the riprap area, which is beyond, well, obviously way beyond 66 feet, but even beyond the 100 feet. And he wants us to go out and tear that out if we're not going to keep it clear. Well, there was a
Perpetual.
perpetual easement with the landowner to put that in. And, you know, I
That is with the landowner.
is it recorded?
It's not recorded. It was with the landowner. He does not live around here.
We have an unrecorded easement?
Well, it was an agreement with the landowner that we would maintain that riprap into the future.
But not written anywhere, just a verbal.
It was written. I had the agreement signed. The guy came and signed it.
So we
I did not have it recorded.
And what does that agreement say exactly?
It's on a form that the state hands out for all projects. It's just a perpetual easement to go in, if need be, to maintain the riprap.
And we don't think that was ever recorded.
No, I never had it recorded.
Okay. Do we have a copy of that?
I did have, but I don't know. I can try to locate the landowner and see if I can get a copy of his copy.
Well, Dick, is there a copy of that easement?
No,
We never found one.
it's gone.
Why wouldn't we have a copy of that, I wonder?
Do we need to reestablish that with the property owner? If we can't find a copy and he can't find a copy, do we need to reestablish that?
We'd have to contact them and
Yeah.
see if they would do it.
It'd be my suggestion if we don't have paperwork.
Yeah. The only, the one thing that complements what Larry's saying is the landowner on the east, after the project was completed or in the notes, he had a letter there that stated that he absolutely did not approve or direct or have anything to do with it on his property. So he's always been kind of a detriment to cleaning the east side out, and I think that's part of our problem that exists here. But it wasn't much of a mystery that he didn't want nobody dinking around on his side of the culvert. So that's why we might be in our best interest to determine and negotiate so that we have permission to, if we had to clean out or whatever in front of the culverts. Let's say a log got stuck in the culverts or whatever, and the best way to get it out would be to come from that direction. But that can be done, yes, to answer your question, Mike.
I don't think we can send a letter until we've seen what our obligation is under the terms of that agreement that we signed. And so there's not a copy of that at the highway department. And nothing was ever recorded.
Yeah, there wasn't anything there, and there wasn't anything, Banner didn't have any history of it, and nor Register of Deeds.
And how long ago was this?
2009.
2009.
Or
No, 11.
11.
11.
So our only other option is to contact the landowner and ask if they've got a copy they'll give us.
Sounds like a process we need to at least attempt.
And who's going to do that? Make that contact.
I can contact him. I contacted him before. I just got to get the guy that farms the ground, give me the phone number.
That'd
It's
be-
Roger Sunday is the landowner.
So, I mean, we should have a copy of any agreement that has any obligations that we have to fulfill. So that'd be great, and then we can
Okay.
address what we want to do about the letter.
We'll hold off on the letter until we. Okay.
Okay. In my report, I had provided copies of our wheel tax ordinances from the past that we have adopted and have in place currently. And I also provided this morning a list of what all other counties throughout the state have for their wheel tax as well. We've talking about this, and Dick mentioned it as part of his report, that if we're gonna do this and we want those points for the big grant for the next round of grants, we need to get this ordinance done and in place before the end of the year, preferably
Definitely, preferably by the 15th of October.
Yeah. So is this something that you want us to start drafting, this ordinance, and get it on a future agenda? If I kind of put a star by Hughes County, they're an example of a county that has a lower wheel tax on the lesser weight vehicles, and then they have the full $5 on the 6,000 and over, and they do receive their full points through the big grant process for wheel tax. So what would you like us to do?
Again, how much does this, how much is this going to raise? And how, well, a couple questions. First of all, what's going to be the impact on somebody that's going to have an extra dollar? How much are we talking on there? How much money is it going to raise for us? Then the question is, how many points is it actually going to get us if we max out?
It will actually give us the maximum 2, and just 1 point this year would have raised us about 4 positions. That's how important they are. As a revenue source, it will be, well, depending upon what you would decide.
It could be $4 if we choose to just put it on 4 wheels, correct?
Right, right.
So $4 on.
And you can choose to put that on all vehicles, or you can choose to put that on anything over that 6,000 pounds or more.
And I guess that would be my suggestion, is to limit the number of wheels and only put that extra dollar on vehicles at the 6,000.
Over 6,000.
Yeah,
And then the maximum, though, so no matter what, they're only paying for 4 wheels anyway.
additional, additional dollar.
They'd pay $4 additional dollars
Right.
per.
So-
Yes, so
But-
$1 per wheel on anything over 6,000.
But the right side says the maximum they're going to pay no matter what is only 4 wheels. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the way this is.
So it's not, so if some, has a vehicle with more than 4 wheels, they're still only paying for 4.
Correct.
Over 6.
And you don't have to put it on, the smaller, lesser weight vehicles. So, for instance, what I drive, or if someone drives a Prius, they don't have to have the $4 extra. You can put this specifically on 6,000 pounds and over, and then the other lesser weight vehicles would remain at $4.
I myself think we should just do the $5 across the board and not have different categories that people are going to have a hard time when they're figuring it out. And I really don't think it's going to make a big difference in anybody's budget to pay an extra $4 for 4 wheels for a year's worth of use on our county roads. I don't think that's a big deal.
I don't know. We've already raised our motor V so much compared to what it used to be, that I'm not really interested in taxing our taxpayers another 4 on their vehicles, other than the heavy ones.
I guess I'm in the opinion just we need to get so we're qualified for the state program
Exactly.
at a minimal cost to our taxpayers. That's my opinion. However we want to pursue it. But we do need to get this extra point. It was very evident this year. I mean, 1 extra point, we'd been doing 2 bridges instead of
And
1. I mean,
as far as the state DOT is concerned, they could care less the
Right.
amount. They just want to make sure that you have a wheel tax on those vehicles 6,000 pounds and over.
Vicki, when it comes to administration of the tax in your office, does it make a difference?
It really doesn't. That's all done at the state level. They put that on there, so when people come in, it will automatically figure it correctly. But it's got to be done at the state level.
Vicki, the question I guess I have is, what's the dollar amount difference between the $5 on everybody, or we go over to the wheel tax at 6,000 pounds? What's our big difference? Is it?
I don't think it's going to make that much difference. When we get our figures from the state, they don't break it down by the pounds, the total amount. I would say $20,000 to $35,000 possibly would be
The difference.
the difference.
Okay. The return on investment with the big program is a lot more than that.
Right.
So I guess when I look at it and in terms of people paying the extra money, boy, the return we get and the bridges we can fix, it certainly justifies us maxing out our points. Now, whether or not we max out the tax dollars or not, I guess is our question today. Obviously, we need to do something and get it on our agenda, but yeah, I can see both sides of it. It's not all that much money, but when you have a lot of vehicles, it is. It starts to add up in a hurry. So, you know, for some people, that's a considerable change. So I don't have a problem with, we max out our points with the over 6,000, the $4 range, and I guess that would be the route I would go. Just if it's not an issue with collecting the money at the treasurer's office, which you're saying it's not, if it gets our maximum points for even less money that we're paying in, I'd like to go that route.
And I'm that same way. I'd rather not raise it at all myself, just out of pure principle. But I think the benefit, return on investment, to maximize that point, to be able to receive $1 million towards a $2 million bridge would be better return. I'm not interested in if we can qualify for that by just raising the maximum weight to 5. That's all I want to do. I want to get that point, try to get that bridge for the raise the taxes. I don't want to raise it on everybody. Like I said, I'd rather not raise it at all. But I think the benefit, like Commissioner Barley said, outweighs the raise of a tax. I think we'd be foolish not to try to get max for that return on investment, especially maybe talking the bridges that we have and the issues, the costs that are coming up around having these weight limits on these bridges. Continue to costs keep coming up, so we need to try to get those bridges fixed as fast and as economical as possible, efficient.
So we need to schedule this on a future agenda.
To raise just the 1 over 6,000.
Okay.
Just verify that to make sure that make us eligible in.
Yes.
But
Yep. As part of my report too, we did receive a quote for installing a couple doors over at the courthouse, and this has been kind of in the works for a while now, but and then there was an email from Circuit Court Administrator Jenny Hamrich too about that. Marty too has played a piece of this with a courthouse security grant that if we are eligible and get accepted, that could pay for 50% of this project to put a couple of doors in Jenny's email. Let's see, courthouse doors. You know, there was some discussion on whether or not, you know, this is a priority for both Jenny and Judge Stoltenberg as well, for safety concerns with the drug court using the former law library room, and then safety issues with the court reporter and the law clerk's office on second floor. We're still looking into the clerk's windows. We know that continues to be an issue, but we're looking at something that is going to be a permanent fix for them instead of right now, everything that we're coming up with just kind of seems to be Band-Aid fix, and we don't want to spend money on something that's going to have to be replaced when we come up with what will eventually be a permanent fix for them for those windows. So this is what the state is asking us to move forward and do as soon as possible. So if you guys give me just consensus to move forward with that, this amount, even the full amount, you know, if we get the grant, it's fantastic, but even this full amount we do have in the budget for this year. So, yes, move forward.
Yep.
Okay. The status applications, the regrets notices for our big grant projects that were not funded are included with my report. Mayor Corbett is requesting that the county have 2 participants in an intergovernmental meeting that the city is putting together. They did pick a date, Monday, June 26th from 8 to 9:30. It's going to be next door in the community room, just discussing upcoming projects and initiatives. And I think the email had initially gone out to the chair and the vice chair, Larry and Leanne, had received that, but since we had some time, we thought we'd bring it to this meeting to see if, because typically what we do for these types of things is the chair appoints 2 individuals to attend these things. So rather than the 2 that received the notice just going, if there was if someone is able to go or not able to go, kind of feel that out first. So, and I can RSVP for the 2 that are able to go, but again, it's on the 26th, Monday, June 26th, from 8 to 9:30 here at this building just next door in the community room. So, is there any discussion on who?
Be interested.
I can go. Somebody needs me. Go ahead and choose who you want. If you want to go ahead. If you want vice chair, you 2 go. You're welcome. But if you need somebody, I can go.
Doesn't matter to me. I guess I'd like to go as chair.
One of the 2 of you then. That's fine.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mike, Ryan, between you 2. Okay.
Go ahead. I don't?
Ryan and I'll go.
All right.
I will RSVP for the 2 of you on that. Tomorrow is the 8-county meeting down in Flandreau. And it's always a noon start. It's at Madberry's Steakhouse. That agenda is attached to my report. We did receive the audit report for First District Association of Local Governments. That is a fairly lengthy report, so I didn't put it in my packet, but if you're interested in seeing it, there's a copy in my office. Also, the Supreme Court upheld the protection order in favor of our Deputy Doremus, and that I do have a copy of that in my office as well, if anyone would like to see that. Before I get into the website, so I can show that to you, a couple upcoming dates. Again, something I handed out this morning, the Conservation District agenda is included. That meeting is tomorrow at 8:15 at their office on 205 6th Street. We discussed the Sioux Valley Commissioners, that's the 8-county meeting. Budget hearings next week. In front of you are your budget books. Enjoy some light reading over the next week in preparation for budget hearings next Tuesday and Wednesday. I have it down that we're going to start Wednesday right at 8 o'clock. And I think that was the discussion. So Tuesday will be an 8:30 start, but Wednesday we will start right at 8 o'clock. And both days we're going to be next door in the community room. And I'll make sure that the department heads know that as well. The chambers was being used, I think, for something, so I didn't want to, I think part of it was there was a council meeting on Tuesday, and they like to get in here before I think we would be done on Tuesday, so. And then we've been invited to the Novita Aurora ribbon cutting and plant tour. It's coming up Thursday, June 22nd. They did ask for an RSVP for that. Do you want an RSVP for yourself, or do you want me to do that? I can, if you would like me to.
What time is that?
It is at 1:30 on Thursday, June 22nd.
I'm out of town. I'm gone that week on vacation.
Okay. Gonna go?
I'll be at the bar meeting.
Okay. Larry will go? Stephanie? Okay. And then there's a STIP review Tuesday, June 27th at 10 in the morning up at the First District office up in Watertown. And then, to end my report on something kind of fun, we've got the look at the new website, the new redesigned website. They've got a test site up now that is live, and we'll give you a chance to Again, nobody, this is just a test site, so this isn't live. We're looking probably at the end of this month. So this is it. So it's similar to what we have had in the past, but these are a little bit less touchy when you drag over them, but it has all that same information that you're used to seeing. And then as you scroll down, these large buttons for things that are used most often: agendas, employment, paying your taxes online, vehicle, voters, and bids. These are large interactive buttons as well, things that people use a lot. Our news stories there, a calendar, and then just some history down at the end. And again, we have some other things down here on the bottom left that you can click on. So this is also, you can put this on your mobile device or a tablet, and it comes up. Like right now, our website is not mobile phone friendly. It comes up and it doesn't look anything like our current website. It's just words and things. So this looks just like it does on your mobile device. Just like this, it would look like on your phone.
So how on this website, can you show us how we would look up an ordinance?
So your government, county ordinances, and they're all listed kind of by topic. Resolutions are there for the last several years.
So if you're looking at a planning and zoning ordinance, how do you get to that?
Planning ordinances.
Okay. Could we add the word in zoning in there? Because I'm thinking most people think of that, zoning is what they'd be looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then down there, when you go to look for the ordinance, it doesn't say zoning. Mm-hmm. Well, what's the difference between planning ordinances and zoning and drainage ordinances? I'm not aware that we have two different things.
These are the zoning ordinances there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look at how they got, what the difference is. Planning ordinances. Those look like they're all building codes, but those could maybe even be combined to put into one.
Are we, lighter side, are we set with the picture? Kind of looks like a GF&P picture. Yep.
No, the pictures are not.
No, the one that's main right there.
I like that picture.
It's kind of a good picture, but I mean, what significance does it have with the county? I mean,
no, those can be changed, and I think the plan was maybe to have every time you come back to the homepage, or it would be a different photo as well. So
I'd actually like to be there right now, but
yeah, no doubt.
So that's where we're headed with it anyway. So I think it's a little more user friendly. I like the big buttons and so.
What's under interactive maps?
That is similar to what we have now. Let's see here. I lost it.
Sorry, you don't have to go back.
Fine.
That's okay.
Yeah, that has the road maps, county, different township maps, individual township maps. Over here, if you like maps for download, you can get maps of the county, any township, lakes.
does that have, Okay, no.
What's that?
I'm fine. You're good. I seen it on right before you flashed it.
Oh. All right, I think that's all I have unless you guys have anything else for me.
Stacy, I know you sent me a copy of a draft on the Brookings County and City Joint Jurisdictional Committee, but are we not discussing that or?
Yeah, we can discuss that. I guess I thought that that's what I was supposed to do, is send that draft to you, and then.
Okay, all right.
I think that was our last discussion.
Then I'll touch base with you outside
Okay.
the meeting. Okay.
Just a second. Marty?
This is the draft.
If I can make a comment just before you guys started in your reports, is I briefly talked with the city manager out in the lobby about the a possibility of a four-way stop sign at 22nd and 32nd. And it's the city's still position that it doesn't meet the criteria, and kind of gave this kind of the same sentiments that Commissioner Bartling had made. Just putting a sign up and they based it off the criteria. I talked about maybe the possibility of a bigger through street don't stop. And we did briefly talk about maybe the possibility of reducing the speed limit through there. It's 55, so I don't know if that's, you look for volunteer compliance that they'll reduce the speed. But if you'd like, I could put up our stealth radar and track how many cars go through there in a period, and they'll give me the speed and everything. If you want me to do that, I'll put it up.
Anything that'll help. I mean,
I'll put it up and we'll get a reading and see what we.
Do we have a sign going, instead of reducing the speed limit, do we have a sign at all into that intersection to say dangerous intersection or anything like that would?
We have a sign that shows that it is an intersection.
Yeah.
The intersection signs.
you don't want to put up I don't believe you want to put up a dangerous intersection, but
I'm just
kind of.
I mean, instead, because people go flying
Kinda
through
committed.
there 60 miles an hour. If they were slowed down, that in case somebody
Caution.
would pull out caution, that they're better control their vehicle, I guess, and if they would have to swerve and miss and do that kind of stuff rather than.
The signs are there is the normal sign that just indicates that it's an intersection.
Okay.
There is a sign on the north and the south side that
Yes.
says cross traffic does not stop, and it's about this big, and it's attached to the stop sign itself. So, like I said, I never saw the sign when I asked
And
about it,
it's-
but
It's just described as an advisory placard is what they're
Right.
called.
But
So we can
something-
make a bigger one or put it on a separate post.
exactly, it was my point, is make it more obvious than what we've got, even if we put yellow lights around it that flash like the stop sign on South Main for temporary while we're through this detour and construction season might be appropriate, just to make sure people understand that cross traffic doesn't stop here. We put up another stop sign, people are going to run it because they were used to going through there for a long time anyway.
I disagree. We did it on South Main. They, very, very short period of time, and people didn't run it, they just did their slow go. But I think we would train people just like we did on South Main to stop. And initially, we had that big red flashing light on top of there, which we would have to do again. And if we need to, those lights on those stop signs on South Main, you can see those 2 miles away. And if we had to do that, I would be willing to do that. But I think this intersection needs to be controlled all 4 directions. It is a dangerous intersection, and I'm sorry it doesn't meet their criteria. I still feel like we need to control this intersection. Somebody is going to die there, and I would rather have it controlled before that happens so that it doesn't.
Okay. Deputy State's Attorney's report.
Well, I don't have any. Marty can attest to this too. We've had a flurry of serious felony assaults lately and some really serious crimes in the county. And so we've been very, very busy filling up Marty's jail, which is much needed. As Marty attested to, a lot of those individuals have to be present at every hearing. They have to be. They don't have the choice. So I would just put my 2 cents in that it is really not just a matter of convenience, but necessity to have the ability to have the people that we need in court at a moment's notice be available. A lot of times on a Monday morning, we come home and, well, I live here now, so it's home, 4 or 5 people in custody, and we need them up Monday morning or Monday afternoon. So if we didn't have that, we would have transportation costs. And I will say some of these people are highly aggressive, and we'd have safety concerns and more staffing concerns too. So I just wanted to mention that for Marty's sake and my office's sake. So thank you.
Okay, Commissioner reports. Commissioner Pierce?
On May 25th, I attended the E911 meeting, and there was a decision that was made during that meeting that Jeff Miller and Daryl Hartman, I think, were the 2 people that are going to go out, and they're going to run some additional tests at various different places in the county rather than us hiring somebody to do it, and just see where we're at on some of our radio issues. And then they're going to make a report back to us on that. I also attended on May 25th the SwiftTel meeting, where again, SwiftTel would like to know if we have any updates on what's going on with the Resource Center. So, and I said, hopefully we'll know more by the end of the summer. Anyway, then on May 30th, I attended the Brookings Fire Department County Night, which was well attended. And that would be the end of my report.
Commissioner Bartley?
On May 30th, I attended the Fireman's Feast, and it was well attended. I appreciate their meal, I guess, and the conversation. June 1st, First District in Watertown. When I wasn't here, I apologize for the variance. I stayed, and Commissioner Miller came back for the meeting. They did their 2016 audit report, and I believe a copy, Stacy has that. If anybody wants to look at their audit, it was completed, and there were no deficiencies. We worked on their budget and work schedule for 2018. Everything looked pretty good. They've got some other projects that are probably coming in that will produce more income for them, and they have some projects that they hope they'll complete this year that have been long 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 year projects. So they're a busy place up there. Also on June 1st, I attended a mental health task force that the city put together, a subcommittee meeting, and we'll have another meeting coming up next week of the entire committee. And then I had, from the last meeting to this meeting, several meetings concerning our property purchase that we approved today. So that's my report.
Mr. Krogman?
Yeah, light schedule for me, May 24th, I had a beta meeting. They also had their audit and had no deficiencies also, so that was good for them. Their ridership is over 2,000 rides ahead of schedule from last year. They did receive a couple of their new vehicles that they received through their grants through the state, and so those are getting ready to go out. Their federal audit turned out very well. They were a lot of good feedback back from that, and so things seem to be going well. And they're always working on trying to get rides, increase their rides, and their ability to serve the public. So that's it.
Mr. Miller?
On May 16th, I pulled together a core group of participants, we hope, in the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. And it was well attended. All of the core group people that I asked to attend did. And it was a long meeting, but there was a lot of good information disseminated in that meeting. And now we need to set up another meeting to see what our assets are that we can use in Brookings County. Let's see, we had an executive session on the 18th. On the 24th of May, I came in at 3 o'clock for our lockdown exercise, and all the rest of you guys who don't know where we go are going to croak if somebody comes in here to shoot us. I know where to go. If you want to follow me, that's fine, but anyway. May 25th, I went out with our weed department and we sprayed around the culverts on Highway 11. And then I had a domestic abuse meeting in the afternoon, and they've been really, really busy all of a sudden. Otherwise, it's business as usual there. And on June 1st, I went up to the 1st District meeting. I got the first part of that, and I won't report any more. Commissioner Bartley did a fine job on that. And I hurried back for the variance hearing in which we were unsuccessful.
Okay, on the 18th, I had a LAPC meeting over at Valero. Some of the discussion was each entity that was there detecting equipment for hazardous, hazardous smells or toxins or whatever within buildings, what each department had on hand. Kind of a lengthy discussion, kind of interesting what some of these companies, the chemicals are dealing with and what they're detecting for. Safety Week, I had the E911 meeting with Leanne. She covered basically everything we did. Shortly after that, I was leaving. They were doing fire extinguisher training in the south parking lot. I participated with the fire extinguisher training. I got my certification in and I signed off on it. So I guess that's a good thing to know. It's kind of routine, but I participated. On the 31st, I did a greeting out at the Equalization Director. It looks like it was well attended. I played second fiddle to I can't think of her last name, Mary Kidweiler. She gave her greeting right before me and took half of my speech, so mine was kind of short. She invited everybody to tour Brookings, different parts of Brookings and stuff, and she took everything I had. So I invited them to come up and look at the courthouse. I said that's the only thing I had. So, and then attended the jail, the variance zoning meeting on the 1st, and that's it. So, okay, moving on. Number 12, executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parenthesis 4, contract negotiations.
As well as 3, consulting with legal counsel.
As well as 3, consulting legal counsel.
Make a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
A motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.